How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, MK and I recently met at a friend's really cool little intimate gathering and was really excited to chat with her. And so we wanted to kind of interview each other because we have actually a lot in common, I think, in our work and doing like content and social and helping people build their businesses. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to talk about all of these things.
Yes, yeah. I'm excited. Excited to dive in together. So, Ayla, I always love to start my sold out podcast with like, how did you get to what you're doing now in your business? Like what was your path to get here in life, in career? What brought you to like where you're at right now and what you're doing right now?
I think most of us have had very meandering paths, at least in this space. I don't know that much about human design, but I am a 6-3 manifesting generator. And what I do know about the 6-3 pathways are that it's the role model martyr. Like 6 has a lot to do with wisdom and being a role model and kind of like showing a way of being, but 3 is all about sort of like trial and error through experience. And with that combination, your life is kind of broken up into 3 sections. And the first 30 years is what I've heard is basically like going in the wrong direction and just experiencing a lot of different things. So
Mm.
truly, until I turned 30, I feel like I was going full speed in a lot of different directions and hitting a lot of walls and roadblocks and no's and sort of experimenting and just trying a lot of different things and throwing myself into them like wholeheartedly, but also like really being like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Why can't I make anything work? And then this corner sort of I turned a corner at 30 of kind of like really finding my path. I first really wanted to work in fashion. Like that was my first love. I was really interested in the intersection of like environmentalism and fashion because of how polluting the fashion industry is. And then I went to college and was kind of trying to like find my way into that industry and didn't really know even what the roles in that world are. Like there's so many different roles, but I kind of only was aware of being a fashion designer, which didn't even necessarily like fit what I wanted to do. Like I grew up in the 90s, so I still had the era of looking at magazines and photos, and my mom was a photographer and would always show me like beautiful photo books, and like that was a really big part of her world and mine and something that we shared and that I loved. And I loved images and I wanted to kind of create images. I went to school right outside of New York City and I worked for like my last 2 years of college at different internships and fashion houses and was trying to find my way in. And then by a stroke of luck, when I graduated, I got a job with a celebrity stylist and was kind of introduced to the world of styling. I fell into that world and kind of realized that that was something I loved doing. Like you're working with a photographer and you're designing. But after a year of doing that job, I was like, wow, okay, this world is not for me. It's extremely cutthroat. It's very political. Like there's just a lot of like things that weren't, I could tell, like a part of who I really am and what my work on this earth is supposed to be. So I kind of at that point started my path of like trying to get out of that industry. And it
Mm.
took me so many years because that was what I knew. And I lived in New York City and that was like the skill set I had to offer. And so it was hard to kind of continue on and make a living. I was employed like full time for that first year and then I went freelance on my own and have worked like essentially for myself or in a freelance position since then, and that was almost 9 years ago. It's not an easy path, but it's the right path for me. And so around that time, I started getting like these kind of like downloads and all of these images and ideas started to come to me. And I didn't exactly know what to do with them, but I was so excited by them. And ultimately, the work that I do now, which is my business called Inner Tide, which is like a vision crafting studio, is what it's becoming. But it was kind of the first iteration of that I had these images coming through probably like 7 years ago. And it was like, okay, I want to find it because it's in an old journal somewhere of what that first iteration was.
Mm.
But it was like crafting visions through seasonal cycles in a group. And I had
I
this
love
idea
it.
and I was like, okay, there's something here. I have to follow this. And so I started working really hard toward building something like that. And I started getting a lot of business ideas. And so I was working on all of those on the side. A lot of them never manifested or came to fruition, but I started like investigating how to build a business and reading a lot of business books and like making business plans and doing all of this stuff. And that was like what consumed a lot of my time and energy. Also, I was freelance and I would have like waves of work where I would work for 2 or 3 weeks straight with no break. And then I would have like a few weeks off.
Mm.
So in that off time is when I was trying to kind of like figure out what I was doing and where I was going. Yeah, it also goes back to my roots and my upbringing. I was born and raised in Colorado by a hippie mama, and we were like in the middle of nowhere. I went to Waldorf school also, like from kindergarten through high school. And that education is really about like human development and cycles. And the creator of that education system, Rudolf Steiner, was like really into astrology and like all of the planetary influence and the way to like grow crops. And he just had like this way of
Wow.
being that's really influenced who I am from a really young age. And we grew up kind of like without TV and all of these things, just in the woods, in the orchards, in the gardens, in the world. And it wasn't that I like rejected where I had come from and that way of being, but I kind of took it for granted because that was just how I was raised. And then being in New York City, I was like, wow, we are so disconnected from ourselves and the earth and all of these different cycles.
Mm.
And I wanted to go back to that. And I wanted to help and show other people that way.
Mm.
And I feel like now that's really common. Like, at least in my world, everyone is sort of in this space of like, syncing to their menstrual cycle, syncing to the moon, like the seasons, the zodiac signs. There's all of these different cyclical phases that we're incorporating in our work and in our life. And it's amazing. Like, that knowledge, I think, is really inherent in us. And we lost it for a while and now it's coming back. So it's so cool to see that. But I knew that part of my work in this world would be in that space, like in this remembering how humans are just naturally meant to live and be. So that kind of like led me to start on this journey. And I like first was kind of like accessing this through health coaching. And I did like a year of nutrition school and health coaching and started studying herbalism and things that I was raised with, but I wanted kind of credentials. And so I started working as a health coach and trying to do that. And then it just like wasn't right. It wasn't it. So I just kept digging and searching. And then, as I said, when I turned 30, something like switched on and this idea kind of crystallized into this thing. And it's still changing and evolving. And I just love that it is that. I think it always will. Like, I think of Inner Tide as sort of this like energy and entity of its own that is like asking me to just uncover it more and more and more. So I feel like I'm just midwifing it into existence. And it has a lot less to do with me than like it's its own thing. And I'm just trying to like see what it is and peel back the layers and let it come into the world. So yeah, that's kind of like my path and journey. And Inner Tide is my main project that I have my focus on right now. And Inner Tide is a vision crafting studio, and it is a space to bring your vision into being using these cycles, seasonal cycles, like zodiac cycles, moon cycles, menstrual cycles, and use those energies to bring whatever it is you're bringing into the world in a sustainable way. And like also acknowledging, as someone who has had like this really meandering path and been working toward creating something of my own for a really long time, and I'm a really fast manifester in certain ways, like I like have a vision of the couch I want at a certain price, all of these things. I'll get that really fast. That's really easy for me to manifest. And then there's other things that are a lot harder, like bringing a business into the world. I know
Yeah.
people who do it really quickly, and for me, it's a different path. So from my experience, I've kind of mapped out this like vision creation process for people who maybe it's harder to bring something into being.
I mean, like everything you said was so resonant for me and inspiring. I'm super inspired by your upbringing. I didn't know that about you. And I think how expansive, because that is what, when I think about me in 10 years, 20 years, I think about like having a little family like that I teach how to be with the earth and all of that. And how cool to know one of my friends lived that. That's really cool. And also, I think it's also expansive, like how you specifically said, you tried the health coaching and like that kind of wasn't it, but it was a piece. And then it was like, oh, let's actually take it a little bit deeper and then a little bit deeper. And I think
Mhm.
that that's a really important thing to point out, because I think a lot of us, like solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, we're the type of people who try things and just put it out there. That's kind of our nature, to just like try and just keep trying.
Yeah.
And sometimes what we do try might not be quite it, but that doesn't mean that it was time wasted or anything. It's just another layer deeper that you have to go, and that what you tried was a piece of the puzzle. It
Mhm.
and I think that that's like a metaphor for life, is like we're never going to be like there. It's just a journey that we're going on constantly, because I'm also a couple years younger than you, so it's interesting to hear, like, I don't know what my human design is. I know I'm a generator, but I don't know the like numbers or anything. And
Yeah.
I'm curious to know mine, because I feel where you were at 5 years ago, I feel there right now, right? So it's just interesting to, and like, what's the word? Like, it almost gives me licensing, I feel like, when you hear of someone else going through something that you're going through, like, oh, cool, okay, I'm all good. Like, it's a
Yeah.
part of the process. And like, uh, you just have to keep going to know, or you just have to keep going for things to keep happening. And it's hard, like you were saying,
Mhm.
being a freelancer or a business owner. I've also been a freelancer for a couple of years now, and it is not easy, but it's worth the journey if it's
Yeah.
what feels right for you. And if it's something you want to keep doing, the challenges are worth it.
Totally. And I love that observation you made about like going deeper and deeper because that really I think is how it is. Like you are experimenting. And I think like in general, no matter what your human design is, like your
Mhm.
younger years and all the way through your 20s, you're trying things. You're like experimenting, you're putting yourself out there, you're going down these paths and some of them will come to fruition and some of them will just like be that experience that enhances you. Nothing is not worthwhile, it's all worthwhile. And I think it can also just be so frustrating, right? Like when you have an idea or you have like this felt sense of what you want to create and what you want your life to feel like, and you're
Mhm.
working really hard toward that, but you're not like seeing those results,
Yeah.
especially in a world that's like so results driven. And you open social media and there's like 100 people being like, I built the business of my dreams in
Yeah.
5 minutes doing XYZ. And you're like, okay, I'm doing XYZ, but it's not exactly happening the way you say.
Yeah.
And so just like honoring each of our different paths and the beauty in it and the frustration. But yeah, I think just like going toward the next thing on that path, right? Like I took
Mhm.
so many stepping stones to get here and I'm still taking them.
Mhm.
And I think where I'll be in 5 years, I'll look back at now and be like, oh, I was still just like taking these stepping stones. It wasn't like really the thing yet. I think it's important for all of us, but as a solopreneur, or yeah, as someone who's like creating something for yourself, you really have to be in love with the journey or find ways to keep falling back in love with it
Yeah.
because it's like the results are even more of a moving target, I think, than if you just work for a company and you're like, okay, I'm like doing my work. This is good. Yeah. Like we have our quarterly goals.
They're being
But
met. Yeah.
yeah, it's an interesting process.
Yeah. Your life is just a bunch of stepping stones. Even when you feel like you've done it all, there's always going to be a next level you can go to.
Totally.
Energetically, physically, like whatever, emotionally, there's always going to be like a next layer, a next layer. And so
Mhm.
you do have to fall in love with the journey. And I feel like that's the biggest lesson I've learned in the last year. That's been like
Mm.
my lesson this year is like, what journey are you choosing to go on? You know,
Mhm.
it can be a journey of a lot of resistance and a lot of like anxiety and a lot of questioning, or you can take those feelings and just simply like be with them and do something about it. Because
Yeah.
it's so easy to feel like when you hop on Instagram and it's like it feels like everyone's doing better or it feels like everyone's like doing okay. And when you don't feel okay, it's really hard to be around that energy.
Mm.
But the truth is that those people went on a journey too. They're just trying to like summarize it into like a step by step, which is sometimes helpful, but a
Yeah.
lot of a lot of times there is no two people that are the same, so there are no two businesses that are the same. Like nothing is as simple as a copy and paste, and I think the journey just simply like is the most important part. And it's kind of comforting too to know this journey is mine and your journey's
Mm.
yours. And
Yeah.
it's just a process. It's the process of life and it's the process of building a business. So that was a little bit of a ramble, but I think it's like the most important lesson, probably because it's the lesson I'm learning right now.
I love that. I think it's so true, and I think it's so helpful for everyone, falling in love with that. And, we hear that, but it's
Mhm.
different, like, hearing that and then really learning to do that and integrate it into your life and, like, not make it a practice and not just an idea. And yeah, I would love to also hear your journey and background so
Mhm.
far as we're in the journey zone.
Where to begin? Where to begin? In terms of upbringing, like I definitely grew up in a standard American family. I was born in Texas, raised in Texas. I'm still in Texas. I love
Texas
Texas.
Texas
um,
forever.
Texas forever. No, I need to get out soon because the heat is starting to really kill me. But I will always love Texas. But yeah, I grew up with, just like a standard family. One notable thing is that my brothers were 10 and 12 years older than me. So I often spent a lot of time alone. And we lived like on a creek in the woods and stuff. And so I would spend a lot of time out there. And I'm only recently starting to realize like how formative that was for me. It was,
Mm.
I lived in the suburbs, but we just lived on a creek. And so that was like where I spent a lot of my time. And from a very young age, I felt super abused by the school system and
Mm.
the like the ways of traditional like education, simply because I don't think that it's a place where authenticity and creativity thrives. Of course it's like very structured and that just like doesn't really work for everyone. Honestly, I don't think it really works for any child, but like
Mm.
I specifically like very much rebelled against that. And that caused me like super much a lot of hatred for learning. Like I hated learning as a child, being like you are against me. Like you don't know what's best for me. I don't know what's best for me because I'm a child, but like I know you don't know either because this doesn't feel right. It was a lot of like struggle for sure. And I can confidently say that like from kindergarten to the day I graduated from college, it was survival mode. And I feel like that's also where like you form a lot of your relationships, like I said, with learning, and you form a lot of your relationships with like working and discipline and organization. And my processes were so anxiety ridden and out of whack because of how the school system made me feel. And
Yeah.
of course, like there's specific scenarios that cause that, like certain teachers or whatever. So I don't think it's like across the board everyone's experience, but like this is definitely
Yeah.
mine. And so when I graduated from college, like I just remember feeling this sense of like, oh my God, like I'm free. Like I don't have to deal with that ever again. Like this is my chance. This is where my life starts, actually. Like that was
Mm,
the thought pattern, which I'm grateful for, because right off the bat I jumped into freelance. I had been doing photography for a couple years since I was a kid. Or like a teenager, I'd been charging for photography. So I had a somewhat sustainable business kind of from the get go. And so I kind of just continued in that. And I'm super grateful for that, because had I jumped into like a corporate job or something, I think it just would have been repeating the same patterns as, the school system.
yeah.
So I'm really grateful to freelancing, because I think that it's what gave me space to heal my relationship with learning and heal my relationship with authority and heal my relationship with like myself, to
Yeah.
feel confident in like my place in this world and a place for like my creativity to actually thrive. So yeah, it's just been like a lot of unraveling, and my business has been a huge place for that. What I've been doing is a lot of freelancing, photography, social media. I know we kind of mentioned this at the beginning, but it's a lot of,
Yeah.
the business systems. I have like a super strong purpose, I feel, in helping people figure out how to bring their businesses to life. Because for me, I found so much joy and purpose and freedom in having my own business and not working for someone else or having someone else tell me the structure of my life. And
Yeah.
so it brings me so much purpose to help other people experience too, simply because my business has been such a place of like a safe space for me to figure myself out. And I think now I'm at a point where like I'm open to anything. I think as a freelancer, it's always good to be detached from outcomes. And so, like, if, the right job came along to work for someone else, like, I would be okay doing that, because I've had space to heal those wounds. And like, I'm at a place where I can hold space for that. I have a lot of things I like to do. And I think that that's, how we are as freelancers. Like, you just kind of do a lot of things. And
Yeah.
I like that. I think it's really fun and dynamic, and it's good to like I said, like I've healed my relationship with learning. And so now when, I want to learn a new skill or something to add to my freelance, it's something I can do with joy. And of course, like having gone on the journey to heal those wounds, that has given me space to be able to actually do that. So that kind of takes me to where I am now, which is just doing all the freelancing things and finding a lot of joy in it and a lot of purpose, and hopefully helping a lot of people in the process too.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, I'm so sad that you had such a challenging time in the school system and growing up, but I also feel like listening to you share all of that, it also feels like it's been a part of this path of like you becoming your own authority
Mm.
and like being in charge of yourself and really getting to dictate what is right for you after feeling like oppressed and like in this system that wasn't right for you. And as a child, not feeling like you had agency or like freedom or all of these things. And now you're really cultivating that for yourself. And as you said, like healing those wounds of not liking those learning environments and like doing it a way that didn't work and finding a way now that does work. And I think that also highlights, like, to me, being a solopreneur or a creator of anything is like such an intense healing path because you get to be like really confronted with, I think, a lot of like core wounds of being seen, like
Yeah.
showing up, sharing your voice, like doing all of this stuff is extremely confronting. And it gives you the opportunity to like heal all of those things in you because to build a business, you kind of have to. And so it's like
Yeah.
an incredible fast track healing path, I feel like.
Yeah.
Or not even necessarily fast track. It's just a healing path that's like very intense and also so amazing. Like it's amazing. I wouldn't have it any other way, but you can't really avoid those things. They come up and you
Right.
have to face them if you want to keep moving forward in that direction.
Yeah, yeah. You can't just like white knuckle it. You kind of have to like move through it. You can't
Yeah.
go around it. You have to move through it. And that reminds me of, I don't know if you've read the book Women Who Run with Wolves. Clarissa Pinkola Estes, I think is how you say it. There's a
Mhm.
story in that book. I think I might butcher this, but it's like talking about a tribal practice, and it's like you can share your story with the tribe 3 times or something. And during those 3 times that you share it, your community will cry with you and they will be so sad with you and they will feel with you. But after 3 times, like you can't share that story anymore. Or if you do, there has to be an evolution to it. And that's been
Mhm.
such a huge thing for me is like, yeah, I felt really fucked over by the school system and like I was really mad about it for a long time, but that story has evolved and I've now like
Mhm.
found myself in my freelancing and in my work and in my career. Like this has been the place where I've unraveled a lot of those wounds. And now when I tell the story, it doesn't stop at I feel a victim of like abuse of the school system. It's
Yeah.
evolved. And so I have to remember that. Like, it's so easy for me to be like, and let me talk about the hard things I've been through. I've learned to evolve my stories. And there is, like we're saying with freelance and with being a business owner, you just have to move through those hard feelings. There is a reality where I would have stayed complacent and a victim to life is happening to me instead of like I'm co-creating and I'm evolving my story and life is happening for me.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that part. I feel like that is also just so important, right? Like the stories that we tell ourselves are also so important. Like if
Mm,
we're telling the same story, we're believing that story, and then we're creating from a past version of ourselves instead of like looking into the future, and we're energetically like moving that same energy, that same usually victim mentality forward if we keep perpetuating that same story and keep telling that. And there is another way, right? Like we're looking for that evolutionary arc into something new.
paying attention to your inner dialogue moment to moment, because in the day of a business owner, like you go from the highs to the lows to the highs to the lows and it's like you
Yeah.
can get so caught in like these loops and these stories and just like yeah, like paying attention to your inner dialogue and just moment to moment like checking yourself of like am I stuck in a victim mindset, like what do I need right now to kind of get myself out of that.
Yeah. The outcomes of everything. I think you said earlier, like it's helpful to not be attached to
Mm,
outcomes as a business owner because
yeah.
it's true. It's like one day you get a new client, the next day another client leaves. Like
Yeah.
it's so intense and like so much more volatile. Or I think business in general is volatile, but if you're just yourself and these other people, you're experiencing that so much more closely. Whereas, like, if you're working for a restaurant and the restaurant is going through these waves, like, you're not feeling that as much
Yeah.
unless you're in management or like the owner of the restaurant. You're
Right.
kind of just working for the restaurant and hoping they don't close.
Yeah. You're just like
So it's
here
business
for
type.
it. You're not making the
Yeah,
decisions. Yeah.
totally. And like similar to you, I work with other people on their businesses, and it's the same for them. Like they're going through these wild waves of like, oh my gosh, okay, we just signed a new client. And then there's periods where that's not happening and they're like losing their minds.
Yeah.
Like, is
Yeah.
this gonna work?
And it's so funny because like I'm sure you feel this way. We've been doing this for enough time now to know like the seasons of business and like in the slow seasons it feels like it's the end of the world, but something always comes back around. Like
Yeah.
it feels so much like, oh my God, I'm never gonna make another cent again. I feel like, oh, my business is sinking. Like, this is so horrible. But that's just a season. That's not truth. In those slow seasons, I feel so nervous. And then, but something always comes around and it always works out. Like, and life is just figure outable. Like your business is figure outable. You'll always figure it out.
Totally. Yeah, I think that that's true, especially if it's like the path that's for you. I think that like it it won't be linear, but new doors and windows will always open.
Mm.
And if they really are like closing and there's no path forward, it's like you have to find maybe a slightly different path and pivot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, every time I have tried to like shut inner tide down, because I've definitely had doubts, like I have moments and I'm like, am I insane? Like, is this vision real? Like, I don't know. And I try to shut it down and then something happens that opens it back up. And I'm like, okay, I'm
Here I
here for
am.
it.
Yeah.
I don't know where this is going, but a door just opened, so I can't like shut that door if it's open
Totally.
right when I'm like in that dark moment being like, I don't think it's gonna work.
Yeah.
So much like doubt in the process.
And I think we think like we know how the next opportunity is going to come through, or at least we like want to know so badly, like, okay, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and that's going to bring in this, this, and this. And, you know, like we want it to be linear so bad. But actually, those doors that open come for like me, and I'm sure this is true of everyone. Like sometimes they just come and you're like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll take like the doors open in the most random of ways. As business owners, like we want control of everything, right? Like we want to be able to control everything. We want to be able to have our hand in everything.
Yeah.
But recognizing like there is a higher power of sorts that is helping us along is really helpful. And I feel like when those random doors are opened, it's like we're reminded of like we can't control everything. And that's actually a good thing. We can trust that they're going to work out, even if we don't know how that's going to happen.
That's such a fine balance of like effort and surrender. And like that's so much of the work that I do and what I teach in Inner Tide too. Like
Mm.
finding your own weave and balance in that, because it's also really different for everyone, right? Like how I was saying before, like I'm really good at manifesting like couches and things for my home and like little material things and also big things. I'm really good at like manifesting like meetings, like meeting people. I'm really good at manifesting too. But there's also just always that element like you can't predict, you can't know. And
Mm-hmm.
the human brain really wants to know. But what I like to do is also just like track my own patterns.
Yeah.
Because I work with clients and I've done a lot of different things with that. And when I want kind of like a new client or something to come into my world, or I'm like needing a new revenue stream, what I'll do and what I like a lot of people are like, okay, yeah, do cold calls, do this, go to like networking events, XYZ, right? Those are like things that you hear. None of those have ever worked for me. I've never gotten a client in those ways. All of my clients are referrals. But what I notice is when I start to circulate my energy and start to do outreach, that will let the universe know that I'm like looking for something. But what always happens is while I'm doing that, I'm doing outreach, I'm like reaching out to people, trying to figure things out, trying to like make it happen and control it. And then I have to really get into like a surrendered and trusting place. And then something will come to me. And it's
Mm-hmm.
always like out of left field. It's always someone who like I didn't reach out to, but because I was like efforting in some way and then surrendering, the universe will like throw me a little thing and be like, okay.
Yeah. It's so interesting because you think like when I'm in a tough place, I should do, like do
Mm,
as much as possible to try to control something to get it together. But I've found this that used to be my patterning. And now my patterning in those moments where I'm like, okay, I'm calling something in, you know, probably it's a new client, probably it's, you know, a new income stream, whatever. The most important, of course, I take some like strategy. I do some strategy and like outreach, and like you were saying, like maybe I'll go to a couple networking events. I always make sure they're like aligned to networking events like the one we met at. At the end of the day, like the most important thing is that I'm taking care of myself. Like
mm,
because if I'm in a place of fear and inauthenticity, then I'm just like perpetuating my state of like uncertainty.
yeah.
When I take time to take care of myself, surrender. But for me, it's like self care is really big. So like
Mm,
making sure I'm doing things that make me feel safe, that make my body feel safe, my mind feel safe. For me, that's like going on a walk or like sauna cold
Yeah.
plunge, like whatever it is, I
Yeah.
have to make sure I'm making time for that. And I feel like that communicates to the universe, like I'm creating capacity for this next thing. And
Totally.
something does always come through. And if it doesn't, I have to reconsider, where's my authenticity at? Like,
Mm,
is what I'm doing authentic? Because if nothing's coming through and I'm doing all the things that have worked with my patterning previously, maybe there's something that's being communicated here. Like maybe I'm putting on a mask that isn't mine. Maybe I'm
mm,
trying to do something that isn't for me. And I
yeah.
have to like check in. And usually when it boils down, I realize like, oh, I was trying to do something because I thought it would do this, this, and this. And it turns
Mm,
out like what I really want is this. And I thought that, this would get me that, but it doesn't because that's inauthentic for me. A roundabout way of saying I feel like authenticity is foundational for business movement and business growth.
when the flow stops, there usually is a reason. And I feel like that's such a good one to look at. I have that too. Like I'll be efforting sort of in like the wrong direction, or maybe not like the most aligned, authentic direction, but the one that I think is right. And like the doors will just be closing, there'll be no flow, it's not working. And yeah, that's such a good advice of like how to kind of recenter and get to the root of what you really are looking to create. And
Mm.
usually that will tell you what you actually want, like underneath whatever the other wants are that you're kind of like probably catering to, what you truly want. And then from there, you can kind of like realign and then redirect your energy
Yeah.
toward something more aligned. And then usually, eventually things are always moving. Like things seem to always eventually flow, but there are points of like being stuck and not necessarily knowing the path forward and like trying, as you said, like you're doing all the things and it's not working. So, like, what is the block in the flow and kind of finding that? And that's a good one to look for.
Rejection is redirection. Like
Yeah,
you're not being punished for some reason. Like your business is not sinking. You're just being redirected to something that's going to be more in line with what you deeply want.
totally. And like that can be really hard. Like, I'm someone who has a lot of redirection in my life. And I just want to say that, like, it's not necessarily easy, especially if you have a vision or like an attachment to whatever you're wanting to move
Mm.
toward.
Hmm.
Like, I always am like, okay, this is what I want. And it authentically feels right. And maybe
Right.
it's like the timing is wrong, or maybe I'm just not really seeing. Like, I find that I really don't always get what I want, but I get a lot of what I need and a lot of medicine in that. And I don't know, it's not an easy path, but it's
Totally.
a really big like growth path, and it does really build capacity, it builds trust. And I keep coming back to surrender, but I think of myself as someone who's just on the surrender path. Like, I move toward the visions I have consistently and take aligned action and like do so many things, and yet my life continues to unfold in ways that I could never predict and would also like not want, and yet are correct.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's wild.
When you're in those moments of like feeling stuck, but because of your experience, like there's something still here for you in freelance, in business ownership. Like what drives you to keep going and to like keep moving forward, even when you feel like so stuck?
One of the core things of my work, because I feel like I am someone who hits a lot of roadblocks. Like, I don't really feel yet, like, I don't want to, I want to drop this story too, but it is true in my path. Like, there's a lot of things that haven't worked out the way that I wanted or the way that I felt. I think that, like, ultimately, the thing driving me is this felt sense inside of the life that I want to create.
Mm.
Like, it's not always a clear vision of like, okay, I want it to look like this. It's like this deep knowing that's like a battery within me that won't die. And I love that part of me. Like, that is like my life force. That is like my soul ultimately has like such an agenda in this life. And I don't fully know what it is. And that's why I'm like always trying to kind of clear the way for that energy to guide me and lead me. And it is a lot about surrender. Like that, I think, is like one of the biggest paths that I walk, and like the biggest medicines that I learn from and hope to also, share and carry for others. But like for an example, last year I was living in Austin, felt really good about living here, was like really excited about that. But I was having a lot of financial issues. Like I was just not bringing in the money that I needed in order to stay here and rent my apartment and do all of the things that I was doing. And I was super resistant. I was like trying to be creative. I think like first look at creative solutions. Like what can you do to change your situation? Like there always is a path forward. It might just not be the one you want or the vision that you thought, or it might look really different. So for me, this looked like going to Colorado for 4 months and living with my mom so that I didn't need to pay rent because that was my biggest expense. And I sort of like rebuilt my business from the ground up during those 4 months because I had more spaciousness. So I kind of got really clear of like what my steps were, what I needed to create in order to come back to Austin. And that looked like getting really clear on what I could offer clients and how I could work with people and really support them and like have a value exchange that was really clear so that I could bring on clients and, create income. And so I just got really clear on that. But I did not want to go to Colorado. I was like devastated, like so sad about leaving. And yet, when I made that decision, like everything started flowing. One thing after another, like found people to sublet my apartment easily. Like every single part of that journey just flowed. And I know that when things are flowing, I'm in the right stream, even if it's not the one that I thought I would be in. And then I went to Colorado and like had such a beautiful, expansive time there. Like it was so transforming. My grandma came to live with us. So it was me, my mom, and my grandma, like 3 generations of women having this really, it was not easy, but it was like a really meaningful time in my life and something that probably like I won't experience again in this lifetime of being with them. I was able to like have the spaciousness by not having to pay rent, to build my business from scratch and like rebuild aspects of it. I was doing some of these things before, and then find several aligned clients in magical ways through like meetings and referrals, and all of this stuff happened. And yeah, just like met new friends and had new experiences that kind of like blew open my conception of like what love is, what like anything is. Like it expanded me in so many ways. And in 4 months, I was able to come back here and like come back to my life. But it took me doing something I didn't want.
Yeah.
But was ultimately like correct. What about for you?
I think what drives me is creative expression, first of all. I really like from a young age, I've been always been a very expressive person. Again, definitely some wounds I've had to work with. Family programming, school programming, like some societal programming that's watered that down. But creative expression in my business has been a place for me to like reconnect with my inner child, with my soul purpose, with in connecting with people to help them with something. So like knowing that like me being in my creative expression furthers other people's businesses when I help them with their branding, or it furthers other people's projects when I do photography for them, or it furthers their income when I help them with social media, like whatever it is, knowing that like my creative expression is making an impact on the world, that like drives me and makes me feel so purposeful. And in conjunction, I've recently owned the fact that I really like money. Like I just do. Like I think it's like so wonderful, with my history with my family. So my dad was a home builder with the 2008 crash. And so we kind of like lost everything. And that was in my very like formative years. And what I learned from that is that it is so authentic for me to build a career for myself that has one, multiple streams of income, not putting all my eggs in one basket,
Yeah.
and two, really letting myself be okay with wanting to make more money. Like, my
Totally.
truth is that money is a really um amazing tool, and it's an amazing like resource to have to live the life that you want to live. And so I'm lit up by making money. Like, I think it's really cool. And with that, like, I'm really lit up by making money and feeling purpose in what I'm doing. Like,
Mhm.
it's really important for me to build a career for myself that gives me purpose on this earth and brings me a sense of like security financially through multiple sources of income. When things are hard, like, because they do get hard, I just have to remember, like, one, what has worked in the past.
Yeah.
Similar to you, I stopped doing photography last year because I was so burnt out. I was so burnt out, and so I stopped it. And then this year there was a point where I was like, oh shit, like, I need to make some money. And so I turned on the faucet of photography. I didn't want to. I wasn't ready. I didn't think I was ready, but I
Yeah.
turned it on and things started to flow. And it reconnected me with my love for photography. It was almost like I needed that rock bottom to remember, like, one, photography is ingrained in me. It's like a core piece of my creative expression, and I do love to do
Mhm.
it. That
Yeah.
break was necessary, but now I'm back and I'm so just lit up about it. So that piece of it. And two, it's more important to me to have multiple streams of income than for me to like try to control how I'm making my money. Because
Mm.
I think I can find purpose and joy in doing any sort of gig that comes my way.
Yeah.
And it's all about how I approach it energetically. So while the break from photography was necessary to kind of like restructure my belief systems and my energetics and how I approach my photography, I'm in a place now where I can turn that faucet on, and it's authentic for me because I do enjoy the multiple streams of income, and simultaneously the way I approach these gigs is more aligned with how I want to be living my life. So it really all comes back to the journey.
No, I love that. I love that.
What is exciting you right now in business and in life?
Yeah, I feel like having excitement right now feels like really important. I mean, the world feels just like heavy and intense, and I feel like a lot is going on. And so for me, actually bringing a lot of like focus to the good things, the things that are working, the things that are feeling exciting is a great place to put intention and energy, because I think that like where we put our intention, that amplifies all of those kind of things. I'm moving away from Austin, and
Sad.
I know I'm like very heartbroken, and I know it's the right thing, but I feel very pulled right now in like two different directions, because living here has been so special and so healing. I've been here for 5 years, and it's been like such a important part of my life. And I love it here. I really do. But I also feel this thing like pulling me, and I don't even know what it is. So there's a lot of excitement like wrapped up in that transition. And I think like some of the excitement leans toward anxiety of like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this whole new thing. But a lot of the excitement is like, wow, I'm doing something completely new. I'm moving. I'm going to Colorado for a few months, but then I'm moving to California, like somewhere along the coast between LA and Santa Barbara, probably maybe in one of those canyons. I don't know. I'm allowing that to unfold naturally, which is why I'm not going all the way there right away. I want to kind of like dip my toes in and check out a few different scenes and areas, and I have several friends in that area. So I feel really excited about that. Like that feels creating something really new, and opening a new chapter. This time in Austin has been like deeply healing. Also, I'm interested in astrocartography, which is where different like planetary lines land around the Earth based on your birth chart. So I'm on my Chiron line here, which is the wounded healer, and often on like a Chiron line, your wounds will be really activated and you'll have the opportunity to heal them. And I think that that's been really true. Like I've had so much healing here and I could see myself staying here, but it feels like to really integrate that healing and like see the results of it, I need to move somewhere else. So I just am honoring that impulse to move, and that feels just like really, really exciting. I also just feel like I'm cultivating so many important relationships right now. Like I have so many friendships coming in, like new people I'm meeting, and I feel really excited about that because everyone I meet just feels more and more aligned and like on the same path or similar paths. Like I have all of these female friends who are business owners, and like that's so cool to be able to work with them and chat with them
Yeah.
because that's such a big part of who I am in this moment of my life. Like that's what I want to talk about, kind of like creating businesses and ideas. And like it's fun to have a lot of that energy coming in. And then in my own business, I am launching my first like intensive course with Inner Tide. It's going to be a 3-month course. It's a hybrid of recordings and live meetings. And it's been in the works for like over a year and a half of having this vision for it. And as it goes, it's evolved into so many things. And it started as one thing, and now it feels much more solid in the iteration that it's in. So that is starting like mid-January, and I'm so excited about that.
Amazing.
And then the launch of my podcast also
Yes.
something that was like a 2-year vision that took a long time to bring to life. And then I was just like, okay, it's time. I'm just doing it. Done is better than perfect, and like put that out into the world. So I feel really excited about that, and really just doing the podcast as like a playground to connect with people and just like talk, see what happens.
I
So,
love that.
yeah. What are you excited about in life and business?
I feel like for me, like life and business are so intermingled. It's so hard to like differentiate the two.
Yeah.
And so I think just overall, like I've really been excited about bringing a sense of artistry into like all areas of my life. I think it's so easy for me to say, because my life and business are so intermingled, it's easy for me to say like, oh, okay, I am really expressing creatively in my business. So like, cool, I'm good. Like I'm doing it. But while that is super fulfilling in one way, like I'm a person too, and I'm a human, and I want to like really bring my artistry into the way I cook, into my routines, into am I getting dressed the way I like feel good about each day. And
Yeah.
so not getting caught in the like cycles of my business is the only place I can be creative. Like I can be creative outside of in my normal life too. I'm like, how can I make this 10% more into like more romanticizing the life that I'm living right now? Because of course I have goals and dreams and ways I want to live, and those are in my mind and I'm working towards that. But what can I find right now to enjoy? And that's been exciting me to make that shift and to really just feel happy with like the life I have right now, because it's a good life and we're all good here.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful and so important. Like that's the magic sauce, I feel like, in so many ways. Just this is where we are, and how can we really enjoy it and have it light us up and bring that artistry to it.
Yeah. Okay, so how can my listeners find you and work with you and stay connected with you?
So my podcast is Current Wave, and then Inner Tide. Yeah, I think those are the best ways to find me. You can also follow me on my personal Instagram, Ayla Wayman, and innertide.co for my website. Where can my listeners find you?
Let's see. Okay, so you can find me on Instagram at MKXFERG, and we'll link all that in the show notes too. I do photography in Austin. I do social media management. I do like brand consulting. I do website design. A lot of brand things and business structure help. And then my podcast is Sold Out, and that's SOULED. So amazing. Join me wherever. I'm here.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm so glad we had this conversation. I loved it.
Me too. Thank you. It was so fun.